what Christian just said, we are going to record this. So if anybody's uncomfortable with that, again, because of the Zoom, we do have the ability to easily record it. The idea is then this can be shared. We can share the link through the different websites, social media, etc. And it just gives a little bit more convenience if somebody couldn't join today. So if you're uncomfortable with that, feel free to drop off, and we can make some other arrangements, or you can go back and view the recording in a different way. If you have questions, you can share those via email, etc. But we do think it provides probably the best way of getting as many people involved and informed as possible. So it's a trade-off that we think is worthwhile. Um, Greatly appreciate you all taking some time out of the evening to listen to some of the work that's been completed thus far in terms of Township's comprehensive plan. We're going to spend the next 70 minutes kind of walking you through some early findings, those types of things in terms of opportunities and issues that we've identified. And then Christian and myself, we're both from environmental planning design, and I should have introduced myself. I'm AJ Schwartz. You can see that in my little name thing, so I forget that sometimes. We're working with the township and developing the comprehensive plan, but we have a couple exercises. And they're really intended to be more discussion things. If we continue to get additional people joining, we might be able it may be appropriate to use the polling. We do have some quick surveys to use really kind of as an icebreaker, so to speak, in some of the discussions. Anybody have any audio issues or any video issues related to at least seeing me, or eventually it'll be my screen in terms of sharing some slides? Is everybody good? Okay, and then if anybody, has anybody not really used Zoom in the past? If you have any issues, Christian is his screen, his video is off right now. He's monitoring the chat. So if you do have any problems with chat, feel free to shoot a message. We'll try to walk you through, help you if we can help you. If you have questions you want to pose, you can do that. And again, we're really trying to have more of an open discussion when we get a little bit later in the presentation. Those that are on by phone, again, the accessibility of chat is a lot more difficult. If there's any problem, give me a thumb or one of the other symbols, so we know and we can maybe try to intervene if possible. So with that, I am going to go to share screen and spend a little bit time here on the title slide, just kind of walking through everybody in terms of Comp Plan 101. And everybody can see that okay? Wait a second, got a little problem. This happened earlier, don't know why. All right, you should all be good now, is that true? Okay, so those of you that are getting on, what the township is working on is developing a comprehensive plan for the community. And a comprehensive plan is something that is mandated by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's intended to be a plan that is defining aspirations of the community, what the community wants to be when it grows up, so to speak, in simple terms. Communities like Elizabeth has a significant amount of development already, has other areas of development that could happen in the future. And so the idea of a comprehensive plan is to talk through and study what are possible issues the community needs to kind of address in the next 10, 20 years. And at the same time, if there's opportunities that present themselves through background studies and discussion that the municipality should be trying to take advantage of. The comprehensive plan is really kind of the forum or the place for people to be able to kind of lay out what those aspirations are. The comprehensive plan is not a zoning ordinance. You're not going to hear tonight talk about changing zoning districts and whatnot. That all may be stuff that happens sometime in the future, but it is not topic at hand this evening. What we're trying to do, though, is identify where the community wants to be in 20 years in the future that may help guide maybe future zoning decisions or things, other policies or other plans like improvements in terms of a particular park, etc. It is adopted by resolution. So it's different again than a zoning ordinance. An ordinance is a law. It's adopted by resolution. And so it really is kind of a policy guide demarcating what those aspirations are. And it's really intended to be a guidepost. So a lot of comprehensive plans try to be forward thinking. They try to be comprehensive, meaning they are delving into issues like green space, finance, land use, housing, wide variety of things, infrastructure, transportation, wide variety of things, hence the term comprehensive. Recent years really try to get communities to focus on what the most important things in the community that are going to shape its future, influence its future, say for the next decade. Back 20 years ago, there were comprehensive plans that were at least 200 pages, and there were probably 150 recommendations that I can honestly tell you most communities can never implement 150 recommendations in 10 years. So the idea is to really kind of focus on the key issues, the key opportunities, and allow you to kind of focus on those. And so the time and effort is well worth it because you're going to make headway. If you have too many points of focus, it's diluted. You don't have a focus, so to speak. So tonight, what we're going to do is fundamentally take you through the planning process to date, talking about some of the issues that came up, begin to get into kind of the dimension of a vision for the future, just talking in terms of aspirations. And that's really through you guys all joining tonight, spending the evening with us in that group discussion period. Tonight, you see at the bottom of the slide, what we're asking people to stay muted. If you have a question, raise your hand. Just use that button. You can drop the mute and say, hey, I got a question. I'm cool with that. But go back on mute after you're done, just so we're not getting background or any feedback from time to time. That'll happen. And again, as I said in the beginning, feel free to put any questions you have or comments. AJ, you're talking too fast.
Why are we here?
I don't know exactly. Could you please repeat that? You could do that in the chat. When we get to the discussion point, we want to make sure, Christian, we were up to what, about 27 people?
I don't have to do any of that stuff.
So we got 27 people. I want to make sure everybody has time to talk. So if everybody
Volume up. I don't hear anything.
If everybody can hold
Start
to
video. How about that?
how about a 3-minute limit?
Now
There we are.
now the green light came on.
Christian, can you mute them?
Sure.
And wait, I apologize now, I'm muting you.
The house mute.
So when we get to the discussion point, we want to make sure everybody has ample time to talk. So 3 minutes. And if there's still time left, we can clearly circle back around and we can have more discussion. If somebody's already talked and they want to share more thoughts or ideas, they certainly have the opportunity to do that. So That's kind of the way I want to try to manage it. I think it's a fair way. It seems to have worked well in other public forums, and we'll try it again. So information you may or may not be familiar with, and this is really to give you some context in terms of the community. What you're seeing on the screen is demographics related to population and age. I would give a pop quiz, but the answer's on the screen. And the total population of the township is just over 13,000 persons. And in Allegheny County, that's pretty sizable. You know, so Elizabeth Township is a sizable community, and sizable for the Mon Valley in the southern tier of Allegheny County. The median age, I got a little pop-up here. I don't know what's going on. The median age in terms of the township is just shy of 49 years old. So that's the per capita median age. So you, as a community, are on the older side, a little grayer in terms of the age category than you're going to find in some other communities in the county. And that's not necessarily an issue, but it's one of the things when you start talking about housing, we've had some discussions about that, is households get a little older, they become what we call empty nesters. Their kids have gone to school, have gone to college, or they're now working on their own. Maybe they moved out of the Pittsburgh region and they don't want to have the same house. They don't want to maintain the yard. They want to stay in the community. Those are housing options where they don't want to have that same single family house. The bar you see at the bottom of the slide is just literally a breakdown by age groups. So you can get a percentage, an idea of the percentage of the community that's within those age groups. For instance, on the youth side, those that are between newborns and 9 years old, there's about 8% of the township's 13,000 person populations in that age category, as opposed to in the 50 to 59 category, that's about 16%. And as you can see, the bulk of the population of the township is between 40 and 69, 70 years old. So that's one of the things, again, a key takeaway, you know, from me as a community planner perspective, is one thing just to be aware of, because housing needs, recreation needs, etc., for that population, when you have a larger portion of the population in those age categories, you just need to be mindful of that. In terms of race, and this is ethnicity, the township is largely Caucasian, not necessarily a lot of diversity, a small portion in terms of African American and Hispanic, and then multiracial households. Income, household income, so this is the median. So this is largely kind of representing in the middle, is about 66,000 per household. These are using 2010 demographics. So the census that we all took most recently isn't available yet for us to use for this planning exercise. So some of these numbers, the population numbers, are within the last 3 years. So the 13,000 is from at least 2017, and may actually be 2018. The income, though, goes back 10 years, and I can't do anything about that. It's just the way the Census Bureau reports and does the demographics. Again, in terms of the bar chart with the income, when you look at about a third of the households has an income that's under 50,000, and then another third, or a little bit larger than a third, is in that 50 to 100,000 range. Those are all things, again, that when it comes to housing, when it comes to land use needs and other community amenity needs, those are all things that we want to take into consideration. We also, outside of demographics, and there's a lot of other demographics we've gone through and have analyzed. We were just really kind of giving you the key highlights. But complementing the demographics, we are also looking at the township in terms of the lay of the land. And candidly, the township is really interesting in terms of how development in the community has kind of unfolded over the years. There is clearly a rural character, and it being an urban county like Allegheny County, that's pretty unique. There are pockets that I would consider things being on from a density or from a character standpoint, much more urban, but largely the community has that semi-rural to kind of suburban feel. And in some cases, when I say semi-rural, it's rural. You have active open lands. It may be laying fallow in some cases, but it has a completely different character and charm than you find in some other portions as you move up towards Boston, as an example, than other portions of the township. Of the total acreage within the township, 59% of the township is low intensity uses, open space, agriculture, parks, golf courses, etc., which is pretty significant. And that's clearly one of the things that, again, I live in Pittsburgh, I live in the South Side, is coming to the community and looking at the community, that's a unique thing. And it's a unique thing, character that when you drive around Allegheny County to be able to see that. And then on top of that, an important point to make, which is represented by the little dots, and I'll hit my little annotation just to give you an example here. So where I place the heart, those little dots are representing lands that have been conserved. So they may be lands that are in a Cleveland Green type of program through the state, but half of your undeveloped land has some sort of conservation dimension to it. So it's land that is protected for, I don't want to say necessarily in perpetuity, but it's protected for a much longer period of time. So that idea or that character in terms of the rural, semi-rural character, I think has a lot of lasting standing in terms of Elizabeth Township. Obviously, you got Round Hill, you got the Allegheny Passage along the river, that there's some protected land that is included in that, and there's some other areas, other parcels that are private parcels that have some sort of protection. So that's one of the important things. And last statistics, which I should have said first, of the acreage within the township, about 4,100, 4,200 is undeveloped. So the amount of, given the density that the township has seen over the years, the amount of that undeveloped land, if it was developed, could triple the population in terms of the township. So that's a fairly significant thing. And one of the issues in terms of, back to aspiration, of what the community wants to be when it grows up. And I'm saying that with a smile on my face, because the township has been being developed over for over 200 years. So you never grow up. It's more a matter of what do you think is the right kind of point in the future of where enough is enough. Housing in terms of the township is the prevalent land use. Again, land use is, when I say that, that's in the context of how a property, how a parcel or lot is being used. Again, a little different than zoning, but single family land use makes up about 42% of all the developed land in the township. So while there is commercial development, and there's pockets of commercial and industrial development, and that's represented in the simple legend down at the bottom, commercial is in red, Purple is industrial is in the purple. Government and civic down here. Government and civic is in the blue. The vast majority of the developed land is on the residential side. And so while we would call the community semi-rural suburban, it is largely a residential community. Small commercial footprint, only about 4% of developed land fits in that genre of commercial industrial space uses, land uses. And then, as I said earlier, the amount of undeveloped land, half of that amount of undeveloped land is protected. And I think that's one of the unique, and I'll say it very candidly, one of the unique aspects and advantages in terms of Elizabeth Township is how much protected land is there. So as from a potential or from a new resident perspective, investing in the community in terms of building a house, buying a lot, buying an existing house, knowing that the community character isn't going to have dramatic changes is one of those things some people are looking for. That may not factor in for everybody, but for a lot of people, that's an important thing. And then a little further related to housing was just, again, this goes back to some statistics that come through the Census Bureau, but the 93% of the housing stock is occupied. That's fantastic. And that's an important point, because when you go through and you look at the cost of housing in the community, that's another, I think, from our perspective, advantage that the community has quality housing stock. It's in a great school district. It's a good investment, and there's great value because it's not in comparison to some other communities in Allegheny County, Westmoreland County, Fayette County, there's great value. So having 93% occupancy, I think is really important. Kind of hit on this one, the next one in the middle of the screen. The 83% is single family. So single unit implies single family housing. Again, I said that earlier in the earlier slide. Largely, housing stock is single family. And another important thing, different than on the far left side. So the far right is about owner versus rent. It's not about the occupied unit itself. The majority of the housing stock is owner occupied. And on a community planning side, the importance, the relevance of that is that there's stability. You're not having as great resident turnover in the community. And clearly when we had the survey out, that is something that is just comes screaming off the page. A lot of the residents have been in the community for not just 1 decade, but 2 decades. And it shows the pride of wanting to be in the community. Maintaining a residence, for that period of time is really important. A couple facts and figures at the bottom, the lower left of the slide, about 6,000 housing units. So again, you got 13,000 people-ish in about 6,000 housing units. That's how we calculate to get about 2.2 people per housing unit. Now, important thing, jumping ahead, and this is the discussion a little later in terms of aspirations, 2.2 people per household. The community is largely single family. There are a lot of households in the future that don't have kids. That number nationally and across the Commonwealth of persons per housing unit is dropping. As our state and our communities in Allegheny County, the county as a whole, continues to gray, the number of people per household keeps decreasing, which means in some cases we'll have households that are in homes that they don't want to necessarily maintain the same level in the future. So there's 2 challenges. We don't want to lose those residents. We have to find a way for them to stay in the community and not have to be challenged with a larger house or a large lot that they need to maintain. Two, if we do find a place for them to stay in the community, we then have to find a new family to occupy that existing house. So there's two challenges from me looking at that demographic and interpreting what that means in the future. This is given a summary in terms of housing value. This is census data. This is not from realtors. Realtors probably would be giving you higher numbers, my guess, in most cases. So again, this is coming from census data, and this data is also from 2010. So automatically take this up probably, again, based on consumer price index, probably 12 to 16%, just so you have a reasonable metric. But in the 2010 census, the value of owner-occupied housing units of a home was about 125,000. And again, when you look across the county, you have to be a little careful because there's going to be some places that the number in terms of housing value is dramatically different, both higher and lower. I think this is more relative to the immediate region. So looking around the communities surrounding you, we have a whole series of demographics that we've done, and that's all information you can get a hold of to better understand what's going on in the community. So there's nothing here on this slide that, from our perspective, is striking. The important thing is making sure that the housing value is always there, so that there is a reason for investment, but that the value doesn't begin to go skyrocket because you start to create challenges in terms of how do you fill homes in the future. I kind of broached this earlier, and this came out in terms of survey discussion as well. This is kind of charting how long people have lived in their particular house, the home that they're in, or how long in terms of they've been in the township and have lived in the township. 31% was there before 1990. So right off out of the gate, a third of the residents in terms of the housing, the households, have been in the community for over 30 years. And again, even the 1990s to 2000s, high percentages. You have so many long-term residents. It's a great thing, but it also raises the question, how do we get additional residents, new residents coming into the community? Because communities tend to run, and I'm saying this from a planner standpoint, tend to run almost like generations. And we look at neighborhoods and they run in generations. You need to constantly be having new residents coming into a community. You want those residents to become the next 30-year generation resident. And so I think one of the challenges is how do we help, how does the township position itself, and how do we help the township come up with ideas to do that so that they are as attractive as they possibly can be to new residents. And to make this point, about 3 new homes are constructed each year. If I look at, say, we'll take a Findlay Township or a North Fayette out in the southwest corner, they are probably doing new housing starts closer to 70 to 100 houses a year. So the issue, again, going back to if there is appeal or there's desire that from a tax standpoint, from a long-term community longevity standpoint of being able to encourage some additional development on the residential side, how do we do that? That's hopefully some discussion or some thoughts of you on joining us tonight to kind of get that thinking. Some communities don't want to see a lot of growth, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to prejudice anything or suggest things. It's just when I look at that number and I look at other comparisons, that it's a little different. Now, there's also other communities in Allegheny County that slow pace is also there. So you're not unique. So I don't want you to take away that you're thinking I'm saying you're unique. You're unique. It's just a question of what your thought on that is. The geographic mobility. So these are residents that have stayed in the same place. You guys are like planet. So in terms of 95% haven't moved, and again, that's a testament of we love the place that we're in. And there's some great things about that. Like to hear some thoughts on that this evening as well. Switching to budget and kind of fiscal side, again, this is meant to be comprehensive. So we've talked about land use, we've talked about things like housing, we've talked about some demographics. This is talking about numbers. The municipal expenditures, so looking at the township budget, and this is from the 2020 budget, about 7.8 million is on the expenditure side. When we cut that, then by per capita, by per person, the 13,000, that equates to about $580, $590 per person. And when you go look at that relative, then, and this is a very coarse measure, but one just to give you a point of reference, and you go look at those in terms of taxes paid based on the median valued home, about $340 a home. When we take the budget and we break it into public works, there's other aspects of the budget, but really trying to understand, and I have to say, the budget that you have, 36% of the general fund goes to public works. There's other communities that probably would wish to be able to have that much allocated towards public works. And there's some other communities that number is even higher. So I think you kind of fall largely in a kind of an expected, what we would think is a practical place to be. You do have quite a bit that you're taking care of. And that, I think, is a testament of you take the budget that you have and you make the most out of it. So about 63 miles is maintained by the municipality. You have some other roads in the township that have other classification, whether they're private or whatnot, but 63 miles of road. About $214 is spent on public works per capita. So if you go back to that other metric in terms of the total spending, that jives with the 36%. And you end up spending about $44,000 a mile in terms of that spending. There's 24 vehicles in the public works fleet that could range from a variety of things, from a pickup truck to a dump to another, like a backhoe, etc. And there's 11 employees. Public safety. This is really important. 29% of the general fund is in public safety. I can honestly tell you, there are other places in Allegheny County that number is well in excess of that. I don't want to say double, but getting pretty darn close to double. Number of police officers per 1,000 population, 0.8. The number of cruisers, 10. Violent crime is minimal. 0.7 reports or incidents per 1,000 capita or per 1,000 persons population. 5 certified volunteers, fire companies, and increasingly, that's always a challenge in the community, being able to maintain that. And then you do have a 24/7 based EMS staff. So you have an 8.5 minute average response time. Those are all important things. So our takeaway on this fiscal side, in terms of those first two slides, is there's great value in terms of the public works, incredible value in the public safety. And when you start coupling it with the other things like the housing, the long-term tenure that residents have in the community, you're like the epitome of just a great place to be. And I think all those lead to a conclusion on our end of why residents are in the community for a long period of time. On the Parks and Recreation side, and this does include the community center, so these statistics, 2% of all spending in the general fund is related to parks. There's other communities that there's probably more spending. You got about 1,300 acres of parkland, 97 acres per 1,000 persons. That number is off the chart. And that gets back to, again, that's a good thing when I say off the chart. It gets back to kind of the nature and the character of the community. Between conservation land, things like the county presence with Round Hill, portions of, in terms of Deadman's Hollow, etc. That's an awful lot of open space that, while and for this slide, we called it parkland, it is protected land in some way, shape, or form. That's pretty remarkable. There's a lot of communities that would aspire to have even 20 acres, per 1,000 persons. 62 acres is maintained by the township, and that gives you about a spending of $2,000 per acre. That is low. $9 in terms of Parks and Recreation spending per capita. You got 12 miles of the trail, and you do have 7 access points. So from a situational standpoint, your community, between the abundance of parkland and the opportunities for biking and access to the Allegheny Passage, it's pretty phenomenal. Which leads to the map in terms of the open spaces. And so things like Round Hill, as I said, Riverfront Trail, the Great Allegheny Passage. For some of you, the Yock River itself, the notion of neighborhood parks and playgrounds, the community center, the golf courses, and the various athletic fields and kind of hunting preserves or hunting grounds that exist in the township. It's definitely a place to live and a place to recreate. When we did a survey, these are just really high level kind of takeaways. The top 3 reasons that people cited for living in the township: proximity to family, quality of the school district, and location within the region, which most people, if you read the kind of the fill in the blank types of questions or the additional information, really was pointing to proximity, the house where they lived to where they worked. So it was just a good location. They may not have worked in Elizabeth Township, but it was easy to get from where their job was. Top 3 most visited open spaces: Round Hill, the trail, and the river. Other results as we went through and got feedback from the larger community. And if you look down at the bottom of the slide, this is where the color key is. Anything that you see in green, and this question is related to about where people are getting their basic goods and services. We were trying to get at a better understanding if people want to see more commercial businesses, more businesses. It's not even necessarily commercial, because there's medical, there's household, there's banking. So it's not just necessarily commercial. But did they want to see more of that? And we were trying to get a sense of what they were already doing. The green shows that for those particular line items in terms of activities, the green represents they already were doing that in the township. So that's where they already were spending money within the township. Blue is they were leaving the township. Maybe because they couldn't find that service, or there wasn't enough options, and so they opted to go somewhere else. Yella was the shift that we're all experiencing, and COVID, I think, just accelerated. The notion of I buy things now online, and you can see where the heavy dose of that is. A lot of us, which seems to be logical, a lot of us are doing more banking online, so you see more yellow there. Personal goods, clothing, shoes. I think we're all guilty of buying from Amazon at some point in time and enjoying the fact that I ordered on Monday and a Tuesday at lunchtime the sneakers for my daughter show up, right? You'll see under that third item how much yellow is there. Some dining and some other personal goods, related to like groceries, pharmacy, and COVID probably has accelerated that. And then there's a little bit of the kind of the awkward, the baby blue of don't know. So what we were taking away, there are opportunities in the community if the aspiration is there, for capturing more people to stay within the community and do kind of their daily needs, and not necessarily be solely kind of that residential rural community. And that's, again, not advocating anything, but based on the survey, I think there's probably some opportunity, and that would give us a point of having, I think, some discussion on. I am going to stop here, Christian, and let anybody that has any question, I'm going to drop the screen just so we can see people's faces and try to get this to be feeling a little bit better, and not so distant. But any questions on any of that material that we just covered in terms of demographics, some of the background mapping, etc. I hit you with a truckload of stuff that we've been compiling and taking a look at for the last really kind of 6 months in terms of understanding things, and it was time to start sharing some of what we've learned. Any questions related to that? And Janet, Lord, I can't tell if you're playing the piano right now or that's a.
That's my picture. That's in the Central Highlands United Methodist Church, however.
That was my test to see if you were actually there.
Well, I'm here. It's very interesting. I don't live in the township, but it's very interesting.
Any surprising information that we've presented?
Hey, AJ, it looks like we have a hand up. We're gonna let Scott, feel free, jump in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. No, I want to echo, it's fascinating information. And as a person who did not grow up in Elizabeth Township, I actually grew up in Munhall. One of the reasons I did move to this area was the school district, and I'm now pleasured to serve everybody here as a school board member. I find there's just tremendous opportunity, and I think that there's a happy medium that we can achieve with smart development without going too crazy. I also think that we often look at other communities and compare ourselves to it, and I think we're unique, and we should leverage our uniqueness to that effect. So I think there's tremendous opportunity for folks that are new to the area. I would consider myself newish because looking at the data, a lot of folks are here before 1990. My family moved here in 2013. So I think there's some exciting opportunities for this community, not only from inviting new housing. Hopefully we can do that to increase the tax base for a school district that's doing a lot of good work, but also to hopefully attract new businesses, because it looks like a lot of things are going, a lot of businesses leaving the township. And I think if we were able to be smart about it, we can retain some of that.
So Scott, I want to go back to something you had said. I was fumbling for my pen, and I just want to make sure I got it down right. The striking the balance, or finding that happy balance, is the way you described it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
keeping character, but at the same time, maybe promoting some new development.
yeah, I don't think we have to go all in on one idea. I think what I've heard a lot, I hear from a lot of folks in my neighborhood, my community, is like, well, we need this or we need that. And we can, have you been out to this area? Have you been out here? And I think we get caught up into a rabbit hole of the idea that we have to be somebody else. No, let's be us. Let's be proud of who we are. Let's embrace that. But, you know, let's also look for opportunities to develop and, you know, smartly develop. And I think there's a lot of smart folks in the township that could really think through some of those things. But I'm encouraged that we're doing this, and I think everybody can benefit from a little bit more, you know, smart development.
Okay, great. Pam, is it Pam? PM Hoff, I think you had raised your hand. I was assuming your name is Pam, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's Patty. I'm sorry, I couldn't
Yeah.
unmute. Looking at the questionnaire, it really just kind of goes on the general businesses that we would normally think of as businesses. But going back to what you were talking about on the recreational side of this, we have such potential for recreation. And all of the businesses in all of our little communities along the recreational part of this would be something that would really be something to talk about and ask people how they feel about this. Because if you have a little town, your little town along the river, I mean, you have a lot of potential to put a lot of businesses within that space that we used to have once upon a time in those little areas.
Yep. Okay. Very good point. Other thoughts? Anybody want to share some impressions? Anything that strikes out, you saying, I can't believe that statistic, or I can't believe that point. All right. I don't see any. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, AJ. I'll just kind of keep that thread rolling from the recreational point of view. I'm joining this meeting from the outside perspective with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, and some of the work that we do is definitely trail and community based, and we're currently looking at potential connections from the Great Allegheny Passage to Round Hill Park. It's a project that we're undertaking with the Parks Foundation and a few other partners, and it's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, Elizabeth Township is uniquely placed that you've got one of these big regional trail systems coming through and an abundance of open space, and making that connection is it's just a really good opportunity. Some of my background is also with outfitting, and those shops that can provide services around outdoor rec are huge assets to the community and help not only with, you know, resident retention and attraction, but also just providing some good services to the local community. So I like it from the rec point of view for sure. Good connection potentials.
Great. Other thoughts? All right, I am going to go back to share, so you're not losing me, and we'll see if this thing. Okay, so you should be seeing that graph that I showed you earlier, correct? Just give me a nod. All right, so I'm going to go to. So what we want to do, and Carolyn had joined us. Carolyn Yeager was also from Environmental Planning and Design. So Christian, Carolyn, and AJ from EPD. What we want to do is start getting everybody in more of an open discussion. What we're going to try to do, because we have enough. Christian, you're good on the tech side to do the poll.
Yes, we're all good.
So what we're going to do is on your screens, we'll have a question that'll come up, and then you'll get a little poll. Some of you may have done Zoom polls, and just respond to the question. Then we'll kind of look at the results, and then we're going to have some discussion about it. So the whole point of the poll is not, this isn't like a questionnaire like the previous questionnaire I was talking about that was going to the residents. This is meant to be more of an icebreaker in the conversation that kind of focuses on certain things. And so the slides on the screen will stay there. You know, we'll be advancing through some other content, but it's trying to kind of help ourselves as well as others in the township to really kind of get a better sense of kind of what their thought was, or what your thoughts were on a variety of topics. So they largely focus on, you know, what you value the most in terms of living within the township, and as a part of the everyday goings on in the township, in specific, you know, recommendations or focal points that the comprehensive plan should have for the township. You know, where should those focal points be, and what types of investments? So with that said, I'm going to, the first question is getting into kind of the notion of thinking about the character of the identity of the township. And from your individual perspectives, what's the most important? Is it the kind of the residential neighborhoods, or the residential feel of the community? And there's a whole series of things under that built category. Is it the natural amenities and the green space? Or is it the sense of community? Is it the social aspect that really kind of is so that gives the kind of the stamp of, and Scott, I think you used it, what makes you unique, and what is those things that you should be kind of you know, kind of promoting to people elsewhere and within the community itself. So the first one, if you can only do two, which people have started polling already, only do two. You can actually do more. Please don't. We're trying to keep it. We couldn't get Zoom to limit it to just two. So Ted, I know we couldn't get it to restrain it, but if you can go to two, that would be much appreciated. And then we'll kind of go through a series of questions and revisit the results. And Christian, how long? Did everybody vote?
Right now, we're at about 20% voted.
Oh, come on, you guys. Does anybody have any problems with doing the poll itself? You can unmute, tell me, and we'll try to walk you through it. All right, it's ticking up.
Yeah, over 40%.
The submit button doesn't seem to work.
Did you select more than two by chance?
No, that doesn't matter, Carolyn. You need to go down. There's a 1 section, a 2 section, a 3 section. You need to answer out of each of those in order for the submit to turn, Christian, it turns red, right?
Correct. You have to answer all three, and then you can submit.
But the submit will turn red, correct, when it becomes active?
I believe so.
Did that help?
Yes, that helped.
Okay, cool. Sorry, should explain that. That's my fault.
Right.
Okay, we're about 2/3 of the way there. I'm gonna give you a little more time. It's actually pretty interesting.
You all set?
We're at 80%.
There are three people on phone lines, so that is also something.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we'll give you another 10 seconds or so. And just for the record, I didn't vote. Carolyn, you didn't vote, right? We're not stuffing the ballot box. All right, Christian, you want to end it?
Sure.
And go ahead, share the results.
All right. Can you all see the results?
Yep. So 84%. I feel like what was the game show? Come on, Carolyn, help me out here. The guy from Hogan's Hero was the host for so many years.
Oh, everyone's thinking.
The
But go on.
families
Family
competing against each other.
Family Feud?
Family Feud. Survey results. So residential neighborhoods, 84%. By far. The most important in terms of the built character of the community. Low traffic or low volume roads, 44% was the second one. And then landmarks, historic sites, kind of the civic side of the community, 24%. And then that notion of, again, kind of semi-rural space, large lots, dispersed buildings, was at the 20%. Any thoughts in terms of kind of that top four? Seem accurate? I think in what people have talked about thus far, it seems like that's probably pretty accurate. And again, feel free to unmic. What is so spectacular about the residential neighborhoods? You gotta have a thought. 84% of you said that was your top pick.
Well, again, I don't live there, but I would think that it would be the sense of safety that people feel in, knowing their neighbors, and being able to let their kids out and let them go walk through the neighborhoods relatively safely.
Okay, other thoughts in terms of,
I think our housing is, our housing's our greatest asset and opportunity. We also have just a really, it's affordable to live out here. So, one of the reasons we chose to live out here is we could get more for our dollar. So I think, again, it's almost Allegheny County's best kept secret if you want to buy a home. If I was branding and I was a marketing guy, Allegheny County's best kept secret, that would be your tagline. That's what will be on the commercial.
Most of the properties are well maintained.
They don't see it.
It's unmuted. Speak up.
The air is clean. And the birds are singing. That's why. And the children are playing basketball down the street and people are walking in the neighborhoods. That's the residential.
That's great. Thank you.
We moved here 51 years ago. And we came from the South.
You also said the birds are staying.
Yeah, birds are, the woodlands,
Yep.
Township needs to maintain it better. It's gone downhill since we moved here. Just everything's trashy.
There's too much trash on the roads.
Too many
And I know the
closed
police.
houses.
Yes, there's just abandoned houses, places. We drove around today because we knew this and we looked at places that are sitting empty right when you cross the Boston Bridge. They tore down a law office finally,
Years ago.
but now there's a big pile of trash, brush trash piled there. That's not very attractive as you enter Elizabeth Township in the Boston area.
Okay.
I mean, we have to look at that if we want to attract people to come in.
Other
I mean,
thoughts, other thoughts in terms of the on the positive side of the residential neighborhood.
I knew you would say that. I gave the negative, but I think we have to think about that too. There's positive because all of us are still here in the township, but we don't have a library anymore. We had one time.
Don't have a bank.
We don't have a bank in the lower end of Elizabeth Township. You have to go over toward the
It's
municipal
good to talk
building.
about the good things, but you need to take care of the bad things too.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And Mary, just so you know, I'm usually the half-empty guy, so I'm usually the one conjuring up, oh, we could improve here. So, any other sides of the residential that people haven't talked about in terms of housing? And Scott, I think you were the one talking about the housing. Is it the housing, the quality of the housing stock as well as the affordability?
I wouldn't say we have the stock that we probably need, but I think the affordability aspect, if you compare us, even if you go up the road a little bit to Jefferson Township, literally we were gonna buy the same home in Elizabeth Township, or I'm sorry, in Jefferson Township, and it was significantly more money. So again, I think it's one of those benefits that certainly we have a much more affordable cost of living down here for young families.
Okay, there were, before we leave that number one piece, there were a couple of people, I believe 3, that had put other. Anybody care to share the other? Or was it stuff that we just talked about? All right, I'm gonna move on to number 2. So what's the most important? Natural character. So scanning down through this isn't quite as cut and dry. Now, 2 items, parks and woodlands, were the top rankers at 56% each. So 14 of you of the 25 that responded were kind of in that category.
Can you,
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, is that being presented right now?
Yeah, you're not seeing that?
I can see it. It's it came up as a pop-up box. I don't know, Christian, if you can do that again.
Yeah. I think on the pop-up, you can scroll down.
Yes, sorry. Whoever asked that question, if you take your cursor and go in and just kind of swipe through where the red and blue bars were, you'll see that you'll move from number 1 question to number 2 question. I think you have control of that. Did that work?
Not for me.
Okay, let me try to do something here. Can you see the pop-up box that's on my screen? I'm moving it right now.
No.
Oh, interesting. Christian, we thought we had tested all of this.
I could stop sharing and reshare.
Try that. Is everybody getting the pop? Chris, you're seeing it, right? Okay, and then again, whoever was asking the question, I didn't catch to see who was speaking earlier. If you put your cursor like in the middle of that pop-up box and just kind of scroll up to number 2, you should be able to operate that. Chris, you're able to do that, correct? Yeah, it looks like Kyle can do that. So that's where I was getting the numbers. So the two red ones were the top rankers of the woodlands and the parks at 56%. Greenery, and that was a very general kind of description, but just like the green side of this place, which I think aligns with the woodlands, probably also aligns with the parks. That's at 44%. And then the creeks and rivers at 36%. So clearly there's multiple features under the natural side that really kind of make the community what it is. And I think everybody may have a different favorite, but they're all are similar in appeal and similar in terms of importance. Okay, and then you're gonna scroll up to the third one. What's the most important to the social character of the township? What makes it a community? Again, like this first question, clearly a front runner in this one, friendly neighbors at 80%. You guys love living in a place and you love your neighbors. Community events, youth and family activities, small business, all kind of in the 30 to 40% range. So clearly that notion of being in a friendly place is really important in terms of the community. Any thoughts? You guys have kind of hit on this earlier with some of the comments that you made.
I'd like to go back to number 2.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, is that you?
Yes. So I'd like to vote for farmland, even more than 4%. There's a lot of farmland that's tucked away and isn't visible from the roads. And I don't know. I don't know how people can appreciate it. For example, like our farm, if you're golfing on Butlers, you can look across and often see me running a John Deere tractor across the fields. So we have limited visibility, but nonetheless, we're in Elizabeth Township and we love it here. And we'd like to keep it undeveloped to the point where that is lost.
Okay, so it's a hidden gem, is that fair to say?
We consider our farm to be that, yes.
Okay, and one of the things from your perspective in the long term is the comprehensive plan should be trying to come up with strategies is to be able to keep it a gem, not lose that because of new growth, new development, that type of thing.
I'd agree with that, yes.
Okay, okay, good. I just want to make sure I was getting that. Other thoughts along that line?
Can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I agree with Ken. I mean, we don't really know where all our farmlands are because you really can't see them. But without that farmland that is invisible, we don't have all the green space that makes up our green space. So when we're talking about greenery, I know when I put greenery, and we only gave us 2 choices, my greenery included the farmlands because that's what makes us up to be all of those things. And can I make one other comment? I had to leave the room, but when it said about the neighborhoods and things, we're a township of small communities within a big township. And that each one of those small communities has a unique and diverse type of community atmosphere. And that I think makes us so different from other places to live because you can go to Smithdale or Buena Vista or Mount Vernon, and they are all totally different. And you get different feels from each one of them, and each one of them has different things that they would like to see. So we're looking at people, we don't know who all's on the list of this to say what they want to see in their own little communities, but those little communities that make up our big community are so important.
Very good point. I'm furiously writing here. All right, for the sake of time, Christian, you want to close this one? And I'm going to go back to this. Okay, one of the things that we've kind of started to touch on earlier, right now, in terms of looking at demographics, looking at kind of the lay of the land, there's what we would call 3 key drivers or influences for the future. And this notion of housing, how you manage your open space. Ken's point is we're in the same mindset. And while he was drilling specifically into the farmland and the importance of that notion of it's one of your most important elements. And honestly, drawing cards, there's a lot of communities that we're in the same place, but somehow they kind of were loved to death, so to speak. It's what brought everybody to the community. And before they know it, they lost all their open space, right? So there's that to kind of use Scott's term in the beginning, finding that balance or kind of maintaining some sort of equilibrium. And then the focus of municipal government. That clearly we need to be able to find a way of, not everybody that's been in the community for all these years wants to be in the same house. Some people will, there's no question about that. There's other people that are trying to move into the community. They can't necessarily find a house that has the amenity, the number of garages or bathrooms, all the stuff that they want to have. And in some cases, the household size that I had mentioned earlier is ever changing. Typically, it's going down in size, and some of the housing doesn't quite meet what the contemporary family is looking for. We have a lot more one-parent households. Well, there may be a child there, there's one parent, and so that affordability thing becomes a real issue. Or we have, you know, a household that was empty nester and now may not only have one family member, maybe, you know, somebody had passed away, etc. And so there's that changing demographic that leads to different housing type. On the open space side, Chris made the comment in terms of the organization he's with and the connection between Round Hill and Allegheny Passage, and making other connections to open space and improving existing facilities or adding new facilities. And the focus in municipal government, being mindful of the tax dollars and how it's used and what it's used for, kind of sets the table for what do you guys think is the most important things. And so, Christian, you got a survey, or this is open discussion, correct?
I do have a survey for it.
Pull your survey up.
Okay.
Again, everybody, you can jump off. We're at that 5:45, but we've had some good discussion, and Zoom has not held you back. So if you're okay, we're game for going on a little bit further. So the first the question is of the 3 key drivers, what do you think are the most important? And yes, we're forcing you to have to make a decision in terms of what is the most important. Not letting you check them all off because we know that they're all important.
And we're also open to another suggestion, which you can share, because we recognize that there could be more than just these 3.
Yep. So that's the other. Oh, you guys are getting the hang of this now. Okay, there's probably one more vote out there. Maybe not. All right. Christian, do you want to end it?
Sure. and sharing results.
You're really good at making sure you're uniform in your responses. This is about the third question. You've been able to get almost exactly the same response for multiple options. So the open space and the notion of being mindful in terms of municipal government, whether it's spending, whether it's delivery of service, etc. Those were 33, both 33. Not far behind was this notion of, yeah, we probably need to make some adjustments, or we need to become a little more diverse in terms of the housing market and figure out, some of the questions Will or Mary you had raised in terms of, okay, some property maintenance issues or dilapidation of structures. There's some things there township may want to take a look at. I see there's 2 others. Does anybody want to share in terms of kind of their thoughts on those others?
I like to calibrate my answer, if I may. I voted for a housing market, but I also think there's an opportunity to the open space and assets and opportunities. I think that's a great asset for this community. I wonder though, if those are those being enjoyed by every resident? And I think a lot about the multi-generational, the diversity of age that we have in this community. And I wonder if there's the idea of a community center of some sorts that can be used. I look in other communities, and I know you shouldn't just look at other communities. I'm going against my own statement there, but looking at a center that could be available during this time of the year, during the winter. People have been down to the Mon Valley Healthplex down the road on Route 51. There's a tremendous value, I think, in maybe having a place where that's an indoor facility that can provide, can invite new people to come in the community to experience that, and it can maybe be free to folks over a certain age that could, we can have walking groups. And I just think that there's some value to consider that. I'd like for our commissioners to look at that. And I think the school district would be interested in that as well. I just think that there's something that might be a piece of the puzzle that might actually help attract more development if we had something like that.
Yep, understood. Good point. Any other thoughts? Kristen, you want to close that one?
Sure.
I think, AJ, what I've heard, because I know people are probably getting ready to tune into their next thing or activity, is that the topics that have been covered are important across the board, right? To the municipality, to the residents. This notion of having the opportunity to have those strong neighborhoods, keep all of that intact, being able to have the assets and keep those intact, and the friendliness of everyone and all these gems. How to tell people about that, but not deplete it, right? Keep it at the front.
Yep.
A lot of good discussion this evening. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any final thoughts here, just for kind of value of everybody's time? Don't want to keep everybody on unnecessarily, but if there's other things you guys want to talk about.
I have a subject that I thought might have been brought up and wasn't.
Okay.
That was the natural gas power plant that was originally going to be over near Mount Vernon, and there was a lot of opposition. And then it was moved to Smithdale. And now there isn't much opposition. And I just think that that's something that could have been a little bit of discussion. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, take that a little bit further. So from your perspective, when you say there's not a lot of opposition, that's a good thing or bad thing?
Well, I'm not sure. These plants have been in other areas and they've had a lot of trouble. They've had pollution and a lot of noise and so forth. So I think that's something that would be something to discuss.
Okay.
I don't want to say whether it's good or bad.
Okay, understood. Understood.
I think, AJ, what I'm hearing is that that's an opportunity because we're going to have some other public meetings, right, in the springtime. So the comments that we hear back from people who, Merle, I think there are a couple of items like that on the surveys that we received when people provided some comments, and we'll be able to put that agenda kind of discussion of the issues and opportunities back out with you. Appreciate that very much.
And Ken, I just saw your question. Environmental planning design, we're a community planning firm based in Pittsburgh. The township had done a competitive bid proposal that they had put out. We were one of the respondents, and we were fortunate to be selected. So both, well, all three of us, Christian, Carolyn, and myself, were community planners. And we work with municipalities and developing comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances, subdivision ordinances, those types of things.
Yeah, I appreciate all the research and presentation. One of the things that I didn't see was how much of the area is located in a floodplain. And with the effects of changing environment, would that area increase? And consequently, would we need to increase our ability to react to it through public service?
So Carolyn, background availability of background maps, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we have a set of mapping. Greg, I think you're on the call. We'll be able to forward that over and make that a PDF exhibit, because I believe, Ken, a number of things that you've been thinking about have some further background analysis that we've been preparing as part of the overall report. And as we put the draft document together, those are things that the township will be able to post just from an access standpoint. Wanted to highlight that for you. And there are quite a number with the elevation changes, right? We have a number of stream bodies to consider, but it's also not having a significant amount of change that we've seen over the last iteration of the update. But we'll compile that information and get it over to Greg so that you'll be able to take a look at that.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of other mapping and analysis that we've done that, again, because of the time frame, we couldn't get into. So, Mr. Ball, there's probably some things there you probably want to take a look at, because there's more specificity related to like the flood areas and the floodplain information that it probably you'll be able to draw some kind of conclusions from. Okay. Any other final thoughts, questions, comments, criticisms? This was from my perspective, a great discussion. You guys handled Zoom very, very well. Chris, I know you do a lot of Zoom calls. They do well.
I would say 10 out of 10 from this Chris's perspective.
I just want to thank all of the members of the community that are on in the discussions that we've had to date with the board, with township staff, and then residents coming together. Be on the lookout for the next set of meetings. We'll be coordinating that with the township. And we have another session this evening. You're welcome to come on just to listen to folks if you'd like. Or we will be able to catch you next time. The summary from this meeting is also something that we'll be forwarding over to the township, and the recording will be posted. So if you want to share it with any of your neighbors or friends, also then you'll be able to do that. And we appreciate the feedback as well. So we look forward to more this spring. Christian, anything else?
No, our next meeting will be in April. So we will be sending out the invite shortly.
Very good.
Okay.
All set, AJ?
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.